Film is a medium that transports. All I have to do is pop myself in front of the TV to watch a movie, and I can just enjoy it, whatever place the film takes me to.
Movies have always been an escape. It gives you a whole new world to be in.
I have a rekindled love affair with movies.
Welcome everyone to this episode of Reel to Reel Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and it is time once again in this new year to get back together and start our 2021 journey here as we get together to talk movies. Joining me as always are the lovely Susan Chisholm and the ever so dapper Paul Britton, the other Reel to Reel Talkers. Happy New Year, guys. Welcome back.
Good to be back.
Not in 2020 anymore. Doesn't mean much of anything. But you know.
But hey, it's something to turn a page on.
There you go.
We escaped 2020 only into the fun chaos of 2021. But here we are.
Yep, here we are.
So much fun. So much fun.
So ready to
get. This is going around the world and in our country. Movies are still happening, and so we start this year with a bit of a look at some films that were released while we have been on break. And we'll be taking a look and discussing Wonder Woman 1984, as well as looking at Soul that came out on Disney Plus. And we'll have, of course, our regular segments and a few other movies that we're going to talk about. So it's a movie-filled conversation we're about to have, and I'm excited to get going. And I just think that we should jump right in. Paul, before we got together, you were talking about, here we are now in the midst, or at least at the beginning of, and in the midst of what is now going to be the new approach, it seems, and that's having movies released both at theaters but also on streaming services. HBO Max comes to mind, Disney. We're in the new world now. This is apparently going to be the new normal for a while.
Yeah, and I'm sad. I really enjoyed watching Soul, but I also that's one where just I know being in a dark theater would have just brought the colors and everything to life a lot more. Just the visuals on that movie just would have really popped at home. And also, while I was watching Wonder Woman, I found myself pulling up my phone, something I would never do in a theater, And so, I was able to resist the temptation with Soul, but with Wonder Woman, I found myself doing it like I do when I'm watching anything for the first time at home,
Gotcha.
and it I do hope that going to a theater becomes normalized. I don't anticipate we'll ever get away from having streaming be a key part of releases, though.
Yeah, Susan, what about you? Any thoughts on the new normal, so to speak?
Well, so I wasn't typically someone who went to the movie theater anyway.
True.
But it is definitely one of those things that is an experience. So for me, we got a new TV in our room for Christmas, and we've got, it's got every streaming service on it that you could think of. And we're able to sit in the comfort of our room and if I need to pause because I need to go to the restroom or whatever, I can.
Yeah.
But like Paul said, part of the experience of being in this really cold, usually really cold, dark theater where, you have to hush, otherwise you're going to miss it. You can't pause.
Yeah.
And, if you have to go to the restroom, you either hold it or you go and you miss a huge chunk of the movie. So, I don't want to say that I prefer one over the other because that's not true.
Sure.
I just feel like there are certain things that need to be experienced in a theater and there are certain things that are okay to experience at home.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Where I felt it the most, and I'm sure this is no surprise to both of you, is, I did my annual Saturday after Christmas movie marathon, and I watched all 5 of the films that I included on my list, some of which we'll talk about today. All from home, and it was different. I did try, Paul, to put my phone away, just like I would in a movie theater, because I wanted the experience to be all about films. And for the most part, I was pretty successful. It was also the fastest I've ever gone through the 5 movies, and I wasn't getting home at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
But so, but it wasn't. I will never say it was the same. It was not quite the experience. I used to love the tension of like, am I going to make it to the next theater, in time, in traffic? But hey, at least I had the opportunity to see the movies I was hoping to see. And but yeah, I definitely felt it. And I don't want this to be the norm, but I still don't feel 100% comfortable going to a theater, which is unfortunate because I know that there are theater companies doing their best to try to provide a safe environment for us to watch movies in. But I don't know, man. I'm just a skeptic, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So the 2 movies that we're going to feature in this discussion today on this episode are 2 movies that were released directly to streaming at the same time that they were released in theaters.
Soul never went to theaters. Let's just.
Oh, good point. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Disney Plus, definitely was where you found it. Mm-hmm. So Wonder Woman 1984, released in theaters and HBO Max. HBO Max is going to be a huge place where we'll see a lot of major releases this year. And of course, Soul on Disney Plus. I want to start with Wonder Woman 1984 because it was sort of the blockbuster event that had been, advertised quite often throughout the year. And what I'd like to start with, since it's been a few weeks since the movie came out, is just what were your thoughts overall? I was looking forward to this film because when it comes to the DC universe and the films of the DC universe, they've always, very rarely, I should say, hit the mark. But the first Wonder Woman really did. And so here we were anticipating this sequel. And I'm really curious to get your thoughts on the movie that was Wonder Woman 1984. So, Paul, we'll start with you. I'd really like to get your insight and get the conversation going.
So my feeling on Wonder Woman 84 is that it was a decent action flick, and that's about all, which is disappointing. I feel like a few commentary, a little bit of commentary I've read has said, oh, well, it's just a superhero movie. You shouldn't expect more. But the reality is that Wonder Woman actually was quite a bit more. It had a real, there was a real humanity and a real warmth to that movie that was just really missing with this one. And it just didn't feel, it tried. With Kristen Wiig's character and so to sort of be that sort of human anchor for the movie, but in the end, it's just the plot gets convoluted and what here honestly my biggest problem is that in all the prior instances we've seen Wonder Woman, it's always been very like, she's, secretive. She's not known to the world. She's keeping just her entire existence secret, and so either she should be, and we're okay with that, which is where I was, or she's not. She's out there being friendly neighborhood Wonder Woman and stopping crimes mid-attempt, even though there was really no reason for her to be at the mall stopping a crime there. And people know about her and people talk about her and she's a known entity. Like, you can't have this happening in 1984 and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, who's this person showing up? It's like, no, it's Wonder Woman because she was at the mall in 1984 stopping a common burglary. Yeah. The continuity just sucked, quite frankly. But on an island on its own, it was good. Like, it was fine. It was a perfectly acceptable action flick, but it definitely doesn't hold up with the first Wonder Woman or her past appearances in other movies.
Gotcha. Susan, you had not seen the first one at the time that we were preparing to watch the sequel and talk about it on this show. So tell us a little bit about how you went about it, and then your thoughts on Wonder Woman 1984.
So I mean, I just watched it. I basically, I did a little bit of research on it. I just said, well, I'm never going to learn anything this way. So I sat down and watched the first Wonder Woman movie, which again, like like echoing what Paul said, it was a full movie. It was a superhero movie. It was a feel good movie. It was a human, very real movie. And there was depth to it. For me, then I watched Wonder Woman 84, and the same thing with like what Paul said again. I found myself on my phone. I found myself answering questions to my kid in the kitchen and going, "Oh, I missed something." So, the part that killed it for me, really, was that every actor except for maybe Kristen Wiig, they were all so flat. Like every interaction between Chris Pine and Gal Gadot was just like forced. They were uncomfortable. They were stiff. They were, and so for me, that kind of took me out of the magic. It took me out of the movie, and I was just unhappy, from there on. And I even at one point was sitting there kind of going, I mean, I started it and I gotta finish it, but do I even really want to? So that's saying something.
Yeah, sure. Well, and especially with the anticipation that this movie was met with. For me, same thing. I think I was disappointed mainly because of how much I ended up loving the first one. This one had heft of a different kind. The first movie was everything you guys have said. The heft of it was the humanity of it, was the way in which the story was told. Patty Jenkins is a fantastic director. But then this one, the heft was just too much trying to, I think, outdo the first one when it came to things like the action sequences, the things they were trying to introduce. I had a funny conversation with a friend of mine who said that, or who my initial, discussion after the film, one of my main complaints was I was really picking it apart. I just was not happy with it. And I was saying that's the best they can come up with her invisible jet. And then she doesn't even fly it. And his response back to me was, well, what is an invisible jet really going to look like? I'm like, no, that's not the point. It seemed lacking because how many, the way I was finally able to make my point was how many cloud bursts do we have to see before we're like, okay, we get it. It's an invisible jet, and then the fact that she wasn't flying it, don't even get me started. So, as someone who's not a big comic book person, but who remembers characters like Wonder Woman from my childhood, in Saturday morning cartoons and so forth, I was expecting more, especially after the success of the first film. And I felt that from a story standpoint, too much was attempted. From a cinematography standpoint, it was sort of, okay, yeah, average in terms of, it's an action film. You're going to have the same sort of, landscapes and backgrounds. And then unfortunately, the talent that is Pedro Pascal just really was way over the top and took me out of it. I wasn't feeling anything in terms of what was being created. So there were just so many misses that I found myself really, really disappointed. And I'm glad I started my day with that movie, because had I left it to the end, I would have been really on a down note when it was done. I think that there's, that whole sophomore jinx that movies suffer from sometimes when there are sequels. And I think Wonder Woman 1984 suffered from that. I get the whole notion of the interactions being forced. But I think that I just didn't buy some of the casting. Kristen Wiig, she's great, but I think she's put herself in such a consistent type of role that by the time we get to this one, it's like, I don't buy it. And so yeah, I found it tough to like this movie, and I'm glad I saw it. I wasn't even one that was, I don't know if I'm revealing too much at this point. I think it's been long enough, but even the Linda Carter cameo just didn't do it for me. I'm like, okay, it's over.
Yeah.
So
and honestly, I had heard that Linda Carter was going to be in it, and I thought she was in it at the start of the movie when they showed a woman jogging in like rainbow like unitard and stuff, I thought, oh, there's Linda Carter, and then it was like, oh wait, no, I guess that wasn't Linda Carter. Okay.
Well, hey, I'll say this: I was proud of myself that I was able to recognize, because when they first introduced how her character inspired the armor.
Yeah.
Her eyes. I mean, you're looking at a guy who back in, when it was her playing Wonder Woman on a weekly series, I was in love, you know? Yeah. And I was like, I know those eyes. And so,
cool.
It had every opportunity to become sort of not only a nostalgic, thing because of the time in which it's set, but unfortunately I don't feel like it delivered like it might have. So,
okay, can I just bring up?
Sure.
The utter lack of 80s music was.
Thank you. That's what I meant to. Yes. Frankie Goes to Hollywood is the only. Relax. That's it.
And the trailer. The trailer for the movie had such a good use of 80s music, and then to go from this amazing use of 80s music to just being like, fuck it, we don't need it. It's like. What? Have you not watched Guardians? Like, unless they just came out and said we flat out don't want to be like accused of trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy, I would say, who the fuck cares? People like that, like just do it.
I found myself wondering, even as the movie was playing, because that stood out to me immediately.
Yeah.
I wondered. I never went to look. That's how disinterested I was by the time it was done.
Yeah.
I wonder if there were copyright issues or some sort of struggle with getting permission to use film or music.
The Warner Brothers, they have a catalog.
This is what I'm saying. But this is what I'm saying. It's like, what a miss. What a miss. And And
I'm here to tell you, Warner Brothers has a music catalog. They were absolutely. They could shoehorn in any damn 80s song that they want to, and it would have been fine.
It so troubled me that I even went and I looked at music from the 80s between 80 and 84, and I thought, okay, maybe I'm misthinking. Like, what's up? No, there's plenty available. There's plenty available.
1983 is one of the greatest years for music ever. I'll die on that hill. 1983 is one of the greatest years for music ever. If I'm listening to on the weekends, if I turn on Sirius satellite radio and I'm on the 80 station and their class and their top 40 from back in the days doing 1983, I'm listening to the whole thing. Because I know at least every other song is going to be amazing. And then once you get to the top 20, every song is just ridiculous. So,
absolutely. Yeah, big miss there. Had our friend Susan been alive and born in 1983, she would have loved that music. So.
I'm sure. I'm sure I would.
All right. Well, here on Real to Real Talk, those of you who have faithfully followed us know that we have a taco rating system that we use to rate films, and we will be using it for this episode like we always do. 5 tacos is the maximum a movie can get, but if you love it and want to give it more, you can throw on some guac. So with that, Paul, we'll start with you, then Susan, and then myself. Tell us, what is your rating for Wonder Woman 1984?
In a vacuum, I would give it 3, but because we don't exist in a vacuum and there is precedent for this, I'm knocking off a taco, but I'll add guac. I don't feel like I want to knock off a whole taco, so I'm going to do 2 tacos with guac. And the guac is just because it did have some good action sequences. Like the bit in the White House was really good.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. All right, Susan.
I was leaning towards 2 tacos, but I agree. I'm going to add I'm going to add the guac too because the sequences were good. So.
I am going to land at 2 tacos flat, no guac. It was that much of a letdown for me. And so, but hey, it's now part of the DC world universe. And we'll see what happens, as they have already announced that there will be a 3rd Wonder Woman movie coming up. So always a chance for redemption. So the second movie we'll talk about in this particular episode in some detail is Disney Plus's release of the movie Soul. This movie, man, that's the word that just keeps coming up. It has soul. I hate to be that way, but Susan, I want to start with you. As you watch this movie, tell us a little bit about what your experience was, and then we'll go to Paul.
So before I got to watch the movie, I was reading posts in a Facebook group that I'm in, and somebody offhandedly compared the movie Soul to Coco. And so I was sitting in my brain, I was listening to it, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm gonna keep an eye out for those parallels, and that's something that I could bring up and talk about, because Coco was a hit, at least in our house. Sorry. But I didn't see the same parallels.
They're not there, by the way.
I thought the movie was great. I liked the story that they had. I liked that it was endearing, and it was sweet, and it was like, you really found yourself at the end when, I'm trying not to do spoilers. you find yourself being unhappy at one point, and then it resolves itself towards the end. So, and I thought that the Jerry, the Jerrys were hilarious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially like the last scene with the Jerry and the Terry. It was great.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
Paul?
Yeah. So, look, Pixar just knows how to make a movie. Pete Docter, of all of the people involved with Pixar, really knows how to make a movie. And this one just absolutely lives up on every, you could put it up against any Pixar movie and I'd be like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Let's do a compare. To get down to I could have an hour-long conversation comparing this movie to any other Pixar movie just to figure out, okay, which one is better, because it's so good. It absolutely belongs in any conversation of top 5 for Pixar in my mind.
Sure.
Just the one of the things that I read, so there were so many things leading up to this movie being released that I read and afterwards even. And like one of the things that I read offhand was like somebody, there was an article on a page that I'm on. I'm on multiple Disney pages, so I see a lot of bad takes come out. And like the headline of the article was total garbage clickbait, was Soul tells you not to follow your dreams. And like if you actually read the quote that was from Pete Docter, that wasn't it at all. The whole point that Pete Docter made was that it's okay if you don't succeed with your dreams, if you find meaning in the life that you lead. Like whoever you are, whatever you are, there's meaning there. And just find that and be comfortable with that and live your life, but always live it to the best that you can. Chase your dreams. If it doesn't happen, just realize that you're living a life that's worthwhile, no matter what you're doing. And I mean that message. I didn't really think about it and make the connection until like days after. I totally I read that comment like 2 or 3 weeks before I even saw the movie, and I was only reminded of it. Like I only thought about it a few days afterwards, and it really stuck out for me. And it was like, that's the beauty of this movie is, this is not a movie that's telling you anything is possible if you work hard for it. It's not a movie that's telling you that, you're special and extraordinary. It's a movie that tells you that you're special and extraordinary because of you, because you're a human being and you have a life to live, and that alone gives value to other people. And just do that, live that. It's so good. And I love the Jerrys and the Terrys, and there was so much. Jamie Foxx is so good in it, and
I agree.
The person who does Terry is also does the voice of Moana's grandmother in Moana. She also does the voice. She's also in Thor Ragnarok. Is Jeff Goldblum's right-hand person who who spends the entire time making fun of the Valkyrie. It's just she's like really super talented. So kudos to the actress that plays Terry. But seriously, I can't possibly recommend this movie more. It's so good.
Yeah, when it comes to animated movies, for me, it's when especially with the discussions we've had over animated films on our show. I always approach the most recent one, in this case, Soul, with this notion of like, okay, all right, so here we go again, going to dive into this world. And the first thing I look for or listen for are the voices, the voice acting, and can I recognize who's playing who? And because that for me is one of the most charming parts of animated movies. And I believe, and I'm sure people can disagree, that if you can recognize the artist, it's because they're really allowing their voice to shine in this character. And Jamie Foxx just kills it. Tina Fey, same thing. Daveed Diggs. I mean, every single person who has a voice in this film really owned their role. And it was very evident with, it's rare that an animated film will have an effect on me, except for maybe a moment here and a moment there, which both of you know is rare.
Right.
This movie, for whatever reason, moved me throughout. I loved the message. I loved the way in which, there were the discussion that he has with his mom, Jamie Foxx's character, and his mother, when he finally sort of puts his foot down. There's that entire sequence with in the barbershop. I mean, there's just so many moments where it just made my heart feel what it was trying to make you feel. And I have, again, animated movies rarely hit me that deeply, and Soul managed to. And I wasn't expecting that. I went in with very low expectations. I knew it was going to be a quality film, but I was just like, okay, is this really going to make a mark? And boy, when it was all said and done, I was very, very, very pleased with this movie. I absolutely loved it. And it's one that'll be on rotation,
Great.
for me when it comes to movies animated films that I'll revisit. I too read articles about it, and I stopped because I'm thinking, I kept thinking, how is this the take people get? You're missing the point. That's why I think animated films, I think one of the things that I have to remind myself is I have to put myself into a place that is about magic. This is Pixar, this is, Disney magic. And so if I allow myself to look at it too deeply, I don't want to become those people that write those articles that make you go, you missed the whole point of the film,
Mm-hmm.
And so, obviously it's a movie that we all enjoyed. So again, on our scale, Susan, we'll start with you. What is your 5 taco rating, or your taco rating, I should say, for Soul on Disney Plus?
Well, I guess I got to go 5, huh? No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I was going to go 5.
You don't have to. You don't want to.
No, I was going to say 5 tacos. I definitely I loved it. I really did. And, like you said, it's going to have that rotation in the house. I'm not giving it the guac because I need a minute before I can do it again. So,
Sure.
that's about it. It's just, it really did. It hit all the right spots.
All right, Paul?
Yeah, I'm going 5 taco truck tacos with a super heavy dosing of guac, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to give it the 5 tacos plus guac action as well. I really did enjoy it, and it's so full of so many moments. I mean, the interactions within this particular film. I loved every character. I loved every interaction. I wanted to mention just that discussion in the beginning with Angela Bassett and the band.
Yeah.
Before, and that's before the movie even really takes off. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going, "Oh, I could do this for hours,"
And I also want to give shout out to Felicia Rashad.
Yes.
As soon as she uttered her first line, I was like, I like this character already. That is
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the power of this film. And again, because it had been so heavily advertised and promoted, I was so pleased that it delivered. And in comparison to the 2 films that we looked at in some detail today, so this morning, didn't hit the mark, and one hit it out of the park, multiple times. And so that is our look at Wonder Woman 1984 and Soul. Soul you can still find on Disney Plus, as that is its home. I know that Wonder Woman 1984 is sort of on a limited release. Paul, do you know when it
I think it's through the end of the month, but
okay,
or maybe even just one full month until January 25th or something like that. But
yeah, I believe so. Yeah, so it will be available on HBO Max through that time frame. Not saying don't watch it. Check it out. Always figure out what you think of each of these films, and would love to hear from you about them. So don't forget, you can find us on YouTube, which you have. Thank you for joining us. Please make sure you take a moment and click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also click that notification bell so you know when our episodes land. And there's a little thumbs up symbol that we want you to click on, and give us a like on this episode, and then go back and watch others and give them likes, because we're awesome. Also find us on Facebook and on Instagram. You can find out what we're watching, what we're going to be watching, and what future episodes will be about. And if you're wondering what else we've talked about, again, scroll back, and I'm sure you'll have a good time either listening to us on audio on Podbean or watching our videos here on YouTube.
Before we move on, Sergio, I do want to say something. So over the break, we had a 2-week hiatus. I went back and I looked at what our viewership has been on past episodes, and people usually tune in for a lot heavier for movies when we're reviewing movies that are recently released. And we get super light viewership on our assignments and our Netflix roulette. I'm assuming that we're going to get good viewership on this one because we're doing new movie. I'm telling people, go back and watch one of our Netflix roulette episodes. Those are, for us, one of the most fun episodes that we do. There's a reason why we do them as a regularly scheduled thing. Please go give one of those a viewing if you enjoy our movie takes, because those are really, really fun.
Definitely words of wisdom that I will back up for sure. And we will continue to encourage you to visit other past episodes, because we have a lot of fun doing them, and we're going to keep on trucking. All right. So that brings us to this week's segments. And, if I've missed things, it's just hearing you guys talk about stuff you're watching. So, Paul, what the hell did you watch while we've been on break?
Okay. Well, I watched a lot when we were on break, actually. But the one that I've been holding on to for this segment is something that actually has been on this list since I first had the concept for this. It's a movie that I had heard about, and just kind of always, every time I saw another reference to it, I was like, oh yeah, what was this again? I know I've heard about it. And it's a movie called Holy Motors. It's a French film. There are a couple of actresses that you would know. Kylie Minogue is in it, and Eva Mendes is in it. And it's actually, it's okay. I'm just going to flat out, I'm going to do something I normally don't do. I'm giving my rating up front. This movie gets 5 tacos plus guac. Okay. I frigging loved this movie. Now, it is absurdist cinema. So the story is super loosey-goosey. So it's not going to be for everybody. Okay. And I get that. However, I am flat out telling you, this movie is just fantastic. It's really it's meaningful and has symbolism and meaning without being overly like, oh, what the hell is this all about? It's obvious. The movie's about just how everyday life is art. I mean, that's literally what the movie's about. The concept is that there are people who are driven around in limousines who are taken to different places where they are going to be doing a scene. Okay. And you find out during the movie that they're actually actors. Like, they are flat out actors. They're not pretending to be anything but an actor. You find them, the first time you're in the limo, you see, it's a guy, he comes in as a businessman, but he leaves as something totally different. And then the next time you're in the limo, you realize, wait a second, this isn't a limo. It's actually like a changing room for a costume room for an actor. And and it's beautiful. It's beautiful in places, and it's wretched in places, and it's heartbreaking in places, and it's uplifting in places. I mean, there is one scene that is just so uplifting and amazing, and it's fun in places, and it's just completely absurd and off the wall in places. The scene with Eva Mendes, it's just indescribably weird. It's just indescribably insane, and there's no explaining it whatsoever. And yet, it's so funny in a super super dark way. I can't recommend the movie, but I also can't possibly recommend it more. Like, because this is not a movie for everybody. It's free on Tubi. I highly recommend that you check it out. However, it's interesting because I had actually seen two of the vignettes. Basically, the movie's broken out into vignettes, even though with the sort of this one actor being traveled from scene to scene, being the string throughout. There's one scene where you get to see an accordion marching band. So I don't know who doesn't want to see an accordion marching band, but I had seen that scene somewhere else, probably posted on Facebook or something. So if you do Holy Motors accordion marching band scene, I'm sure you'll find it on Google. And I had actually seen parts of the Eva Mendes scene before, and so I loved it. It's not for everybody. Yeah. I don't know what more to tell you. Like it is very disturbing in some scenes, but it's so good in others.
Love the title, and I love the movie poster. I always look. That's the first thing I look for, Paul, when you bring up your titles.
The ending of this movie, I'm not even going to give it away but I can't spoil anything because there is no overriding plot to spoil really. But the ending is, I'll just say it ends with the scene with all of the limousines coming back, and it's perfect. The ending is perfect, and it's perfect for a perfect movie. I loved it.
Excellent. Yeah. So the movie is Holy Motors on Tubi, as Paul said, and week to week you can find out what kind of strange but amazing cinema Paul is encountering. Well, not always amazing, Paul, but
not always.
But we look forward to your contributions every week, Paul. Thank you so much for your entry this week. All right. Well, Susan, you're reaching a place now where you've had some time and you cannot tell us that you didn't go to your list while we've been on break. So I'm curious as we begin our next segment of Susan Finally Saw. Susan, what did you finally see?
Well, you guys would be pleased to know I did watch a few, not just one movie off of my list. So
nice.
Awesome.
The one I'm gonna talk about today is one that I would really if you'll bear with me 1 second, I want to find the exact quote of what Paul wrote on movie. Sorry, I should have had this prepared before. I'm sorry.
I love the anticipation.
In me ready to look it up, I had Holy Motors queued up, and they just showed the scene of the ending, at the top of IMDb, how it flashes little still shots from scenes from the movies, and the still shot they showed was from the ending with the limousines all lined up. So that made me
gotcha.
Go ahead, Susan. I'm sorry.
No worries. I'm still looking. Hang on. I think I found it. Okay. Paul has one word, and it's just, really?
Oh no.
And let me tell you, Paul.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you.
Thank you.
What the hell?
You have bad friends, but that's all right.
May I?
Oh.
You said that about one of my movie suggestions? Goodness gracious. I don't even know which one you're talking about.
Warrior.
Oh, okay.
Hey!
I watched the 13th Warrior.
Okay, this is your segment. I'll shut up.
Okay, I had so many issues with this movie. I was very confused for a good chunk of it. And it is very, I mean, it's supposedly an action movie, and I mean, it's a fighting movie, but it's also a really talky movie. It's a talky fighty movie, and I don't know if I like that.
Why?
Okay. So, first of all, Antonio Banderas. Was there not someone from perhaps, you know, with family or descending from that area of the world that could have played this role? Was there no one? So you chose Antonio Banderas, who is
He was
definitely
sort of
not.
on a peak at that point.
He has an accent.
But it's not the right one.
Oh, okay.
And I think he attempted it for a minute, like in the very beginning of the movie. He attempted to have,
Yeah.
you know, an Arabic accent, I guess, or I'm pardon me if I'm, and I don't mean any offense. I don't know the correct word to use here, but it like mid movie, he switched to his normal voice.
It's the Kevin Costner Robin Hood Prince of Thieves effect.
Hey. I'll tell you about that movie someday. Anyway, and then he learned their language just by sitting there and staring at them for a minute. Like, it wasn't even 10 minutes.
I am biting my tongue.
10 minutes. Oh, you're biting your tongue, are you? I'm interested in hearing.
Love that scene so much. If you
like,
your review, sorry.
I tried. I really tried to like this movie. Sergio, I tried. I did.
Hey, at least you tried.
Didn't hate it necessarily. I was kind of like,
glad when it was over.
What? Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, and I was kind of going, what was that?
Oh my.
I stand by my comment.
But I mean, there were parts of it that were sweet, I guess. I don't know. I didn't.
You don't have to give it love if you don't want to.
I don't like it.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
I thought it was really cute when they were, you know, when he was like kind of falling in love with the lady, and then he's like, no, I'm too cool. I'm Antonio Banderas.
Oh, man.
I'm going to leave now. I'm probably going to die.
Oh.
That's a lot of time being Antonio Banderas in that movie.
Sorry.
Susan, I don't want to over invade your segment, but can I share a couple of thoughts on this movie?
Yes.
Not to defend it.
Please,
I won't defend it. One of my favorite things about 13th Warrior, in terms of my own experience with it, is once I found out how critically panned this movie really was. I have had so much fun reading articles about people who were involved with it who just want to disown it. Omar Sharif, who plays the guy that introduces Antonio Banderas' character to the Northmen, he has written volumes of how embarrassed he was that he was part of this film, about how he disowns it from his filmography because, I mean, and Omar Sharif is a legend in terms of acting, and he has made no bones about how embarrassed he was that he was in this film. And I'm like, well, at least you played the role. I mean, but yeah, this movie has not received much love, but I love it. I'm glad you saw it, but I'm okay with how you feel about it because you and Paul got to agree on something. So.
Michael Crichton is an uncredited director on this movie, which makes me wonder,
He wrote the book that it's based on.
Oh, okay.
There's a book he wrote called Eaters of the Dead, and let me just say this. It is not a good book. So
you've read you liked the movie enough to read the book?
Yeah, I read the book years after I saw the movie, and I'm still struggling to get there. It's just not a good book. What he did is he tried to write the book itself. It's called Eaters of the Dead, and it is written from the perspective of Antonio Banderas' character, but it's sort of this sort of like chronicle of his journey. And so they just took the pieces that ended up making the movie out of this larger volume, but it's written in the language of the person back then. And so it's a really laborious read, and it's not, I mean, I love Crichton's books, but no, this one, no. In fact, when I finally started reading Years of the Dead, I was like, why did he even try to make a movie out of it? Like, why did they even try to make a movie out of this? So, but you know, I'll still love it all by myself. So
there are some terrible books that you can make a fantastic movie out of. And there are some fantastic books that you can make a really terrible movie out of.
Yeah, that's true.
And in this case,
it's a terrible book with it.
They sucked at everything.
Yeah.
So,
2 strikes.
How many tacos? I'm curious to know, where would it land on your taco scale?
1.
That's generous. I'll bet Paul's
It
like,
is.
really?
No, I think that's where it would land for me too.
I mean, one taco because God damn it, they tried.
I did not. This is one I did not see in theaters. It popped up on cable. I don't know if I've actually seen the whole thing. Like I don't think I've seen the whole thing. I think I bailed after like a half hour of watching it.
Wow.
I'll be honest. Like it's just a mess. It's just a mess.
Yeah.
But like I didn't. So there's many movies that I have started on cable that I've just been like, no, not for me. I'm out. You know. So like I won't walk out of a movie I pay to see in a theater. But if it's for free sitting at home, yeah, I can bail on it. I don't have a problem with that. I probably made it more than a half hour through. But yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
It was not.
Well, Susan, thank you for trying. That is a movie I revisit often, and the scene that you were so panning about them learning the language.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Hi.
No.
I mean, at least in Pocahontas, you have like the magic of Grandmother Willow that allows John Smith to suddenly understand what Pocahontas is saying. Like that makes sense at least.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I guess for me, the notion of like he sat there and listened for several hours and was able to pick up the cadence of their language, and it's funny because in the book it's like one paragraph, and you're like, oh yeah.
Well, in the movie, the scene was less than 5 minutes long.
They gotta keep the movie moving.
They could. I mean, it was
could have had a
montage.
montage. You need a montage.
No, it is a montage. That's the thing. It is a montage. Time passes.
It was only 5 minutes.
There's rain, and then there's not rain, and then there's fire, and then there's not fire.
It's weird that you've seen the movie enough to know what happens during
seriously,
the montage of
I
this.
can talk about this movie in great detail.
That's upsetting.
And I knew when I watched this movie, and I think I mentioned, I don't remember if I mentioned to you that I watched it or not. But literally, I was preparing myself to say, I'm saving it for the pod because I'm not going to say anything because I knew your feelings on it because you're the one that recommended it to me. And you gave me reasons. You gave me a list of reasons why I needed to watch it. And most of them were because I said so.
Oh, man. Well, thank you for giving it a try. I'm looking forward to the next few weeks when we hear more of the movies you saw while we've been on break. Week to week, your list dwindles but grows, as I'm sure people keep adding to it as time goes on. So over the break, I had a few, obviously family get-togethers, and my brother-in-law is he's a movie buff also, and he's actually lending me his Apple TV. So Kevin, if you're listening, thank you. And so he made some suggestions to movies, and he's like, if you ever need anything, here's my library is, as many movies as I've seen are in his library. And I was like, cool, this is gonna suck. So my list has grown. Yes. Excellent. All right. Well, you can find out what Susan finally watched every week. So make sure you tune in and then watch those movies too if you haven't. All right, that brings us to this week's Real Time Rewind, a segment in which I simply remind you about films that I love and want you to see if you haven't already. And this one for me is a sleeper of sorts because not many people know about it. And it's actually the movie called Sleepers. Sleepers is a fantastic film that stars a litany of individuals, including Brad Pitt, Dustin Hoffman. I mean, if I go on and on, just watch the movie.
If it was the 90s and they were a big thing for like 2 years, they were in this movie.
Yeah. This cast is just amazing, and the film itself, it's one of those films where you see, the characters in present day, but then it goes back to their childhood because their childhood experiences trigger what's happening in their present. And the film itself, I believe, is very, very again, it's one of those that I go back to often. Brad Pitt, Kevin Bacon, Jason Patric, Robert De Niro, Minnie Driver, Dustin Hoffman, Billy Crudup. I mean, it's a monster cast. And it's not a film that for me, got a lot of attention, I think, when it came out. I discovered it much later. And it was released in, 1996. And it is right there in that crime drama category that I love so much. And it's a great watch. It's a tough watch. Dustin Hoffman, that's all I'm going to say. If you want to see him in a role that is just sort of unique in his many, many roles, that's one of my favorite roles of his. And it's a great movie. So Sleepers is my real-time rewind, and I hope you will check it out.
Did you read the book?
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't. So, Paul, have you?
I have not, but my dad gave it to me as a gift, and I like shortly before the movie came out, I ended up seeing the movie before sitting down to read the book, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if I can make it through this book." I don't know if I can make it through that book.
Yeah, given the subject matter of the film, I can understand that, but
so I did not try.
Gotcha. All right. Well, week to week, you'll get to enjoy our segments as we share with you our movie watching experiences. Don't forget, you can also find out about them on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, we thank you so much for always being there to check out what we post. We encourage you to comment, tell us what you're thinking, make suggestions to us on movies you'd like us to talk about or movies that you're watching. And also, thank you so much for joining us here on YouTube. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button and that notification bell and give us likes. We like the likes, and we'll keep doing this for you guys because we love it. All right. Well, that brings us to this week's real quick reviews, and we have a few, and I'm excited to talk about these movies even briefly because they are well, I'm not even going to say what I think yet. Paul, we have 3 we're going to talk about.
Yep.
And I'll leave it to you to tell us where you want to start.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Let's start with I'm Your Girl. I want to start with that one. Or I'm Your Woman.
I'm Your Woman, yeah.
I'm Your Woman. I'm sorry. I'm
Your Girl is the prequel.
Right. Exactly. No, I'm Your Woman. Was that Amazon?
Yes.
Yes. Yep. I'm Your Woman was Amazon, and I found this one because it was on your 5 list. It hadn't hit my radar, and I was intrigued by it. So I suggested, hey, let's put this in. And it's one of those movies that it's a little movie, the scope of it is definitely, one person, it follows one person along through this sort of life-changing, event journey that she's going through. And I don't know, it just really struck me. It was a really good movie that I didn't really expect a lot. I didn't have any expectations from it. I didn't know what to expect at all. And it just, the acting is off the charts phenomenal. And, it's tough. It's not, it is tough, but it's good.
It is. Susan, did you get an opportunity to watch that one?
Yes, I did get a chance to watch I'm Your Woman. I didn't get a chance to watch any of the other 2 movies.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, like what you said, it was like for me it was gripping. It like held my attention.
Mhm.
There was a lot of stuff going on, which for someone like me is not necessarily a good thing. But I was able to follow along and pretty good. I liked it.
Yeah.
It was neat.
Yeah, I loved that it was, the way I described it is, it was a movie that you thought you knew what it was about, and then you didn't. And it took a nice little side twisting turn. And I love movies where you don't see some of what is important to the plot happens off screen. I mean, it's yeah. And so this was actually, I needed a fifth movie because I just had decided I'm going to have to do this from home. And all it took was reading the scripter on Prime for me to go, okay, all right. I didn't even watch the trailer. I'm like, this sounds intriguing. I'm going to put it in there because it's a 2020 release. Here we go. And I'm glad I did. And I'm really happy to know that you guys liked it because I highly encourage people, if you're watching, watch this film. I Am Your Woman is so unexpected, and just a really great film. So, all right. Paul, if I may, I do want to suggest we go to The Midnight Sky next.
Okay.
Because I know it's not everybody's cup of tea.
Right.
And so I've been waiting to hear.
This is such Sergio Wheelhouse movie. I literally watched this movie thinking, oh my God, Sergio loves this movie.
Yeah.
I did not have as many problems with it as a lot of people did. I'm trying to think, did I see the twist coming? And there were parts of it, like, look, George Clooney is a director. So this is Midnight Sky. It's available on Netflix. It was a George Clooney directed movie. George Clooney as a director does not have the best track record, let's say.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why, and this movie falls right into that. He is very deliberate. Let's just say he's very deliberate. And that means there's a lot of talking. It takes a while to get where it's going. And they're quite frankly, they're always like 20 minutes too long. Like there's always like 20 minutes of like wait where it's like, we didn't need that. Like just get where you're going. We know where don't necessarily, in this one, I don't think, I'm thinking back, I realized it like about 5 minutes before the reveal. Like I realized, like there's a big reveal. There's a huge twist in the movie. And I realized that before it got to the reveal, but like I feel like I should have known from the very beginning. And I think the reason why people didn't like it is because they definitely knew from the very beginning. And I could see how if you knew it from the very beginning, you're just kind of like, oh, this is going nowhere and it's taking forever to get there. But I thought it went somewhere. I don't know. I don't think I liked it as much as you will, Sergio, but I enjoyed it. I feel like if you want to spend a quiet evening watching a very quiet movie, this is it. Like I will say, we have another movie where like the Earth is in peril, and we don't ever find out what's actually happening. That annoys the crap out of me, as we found out from when I watched what was the movie that I did with Omar Epps. A few weeks ago, I did an Omar Epps movie, and it's the same kind of thing where the Earth is it was part of our Netflix roulette, where it's just like, if you're going to do a thing where the Earth is in peril and like it's a disaster movie, like people like to see the disaster. Like that is like, I feel like he really missed out on. But again, same with that movie. That clearly wasn't the story he wanted to tell.
Sure.
And so I'm not going to fault him for that not being the story he wanted to tell, but I feel like he could have told both stories.
Sure.
And trimmed 20 minutes from the story he wanted to tell and give us 20 minutes of what the hell happened. And it would have been yay. Instead, it's like, oh, this is pretty good. Okay. It's pretty good. Like it's a nice, quiet evening
Yeah.
Clooney with the majestic beard.
Yes, he does have quite the grand beard in this one. Yeah, no, and you hit the nail on the head. I absolutely love this film. It was just, I'm a big Clooney fan. Right after, Matthew McConaughey, George Clooney is my second male actor crush, has caused so many conversations about movies, with friends about movies of his that I love and people don't. But anyway, this one was, I think that I figured out the reveal early on, only because I felt like the only thing I fault this movie with is I felt it was projected too soon.
Okay.
And so, that being what it was, I loved it because of its slow nature, some really great visuals, that he utilized in this film. But I as soon as it was over, while I was watching, I thought not very many people are going to like this movie. There's an audience he's going for, and if I admire one thing about his filmmaking, it's that he sticks to his guns. He knows what he wants. He's like, I'm not saying he's a Terrence Malick, but Terrence Malick knows what he wants to do and does it. And Clooney does the same with his. And so The Midnight Sky for me was enjoyable, and it was the second of the 5 that I watched, and I'm glad I didn't wait till the end. So because I'd have been like too tired. I might have even fallen asleep. So, all right. The last movie that we want to talk about is a release on Netflix that came out this week, and it's a good time for us to mention that week to week Netflix has decided that in 2021 they're going to release a film every single week, and so I'm excited about that because hey, to your point, Paul, we're always going to have an RQR. So,
yeah.
But the movie is called Herself, and it is not typically the kind of movie that I would choose to watch. And so I thought, well, let's see. And I don't know, man. I'm kind of.
I don't know either. I don't know either. I think we're allowed to have people have happy endings, people. We don't always have to have shitty endings to movies.
Yeah, it was
crapped
this,
all over.
Yeah, it was this formulaic movie that I was enjoying, and then it turned. I was like, what just happened?
No,
so yeah, I almost messaged on our chat that I thought it would make a what the hell did I just watch?
Interesting. Yeah. We're on the same page, I think. So.
Okay, good.
I just want to tell young, inspiring filmmakers out there that people want to connect with characters, and people are willing to go through difficult times with characters and accept characters going through difficult times. But there has to be a better release and exhale than what you provided, because this one, it's just you have to. I'm a person who believes that you have to reward your audience with something at some point, and this movie doesn't do that, and it's just like you said, it was formulaic, and I was kind of enjoying it, even though it's difficult. Let's not pause for 1 second and say it's formulaic, and I'm enjoying it in the sense of it's formulaic, and oh, isn't this fun? I know,
right.
It's like formulaic,
it's
this
tough.
is so horrible, but when you do that, we know life sucks.
Right. It was moving the story in a way that didn't shy away from the darkness of it,
right,
but it was giving you hope.
Right.
And if there's one movie trope that I think is so hit and miss, it's that click to black. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That the film, it's on an image and then it goes to black, and it hasn't resolved things, or it leaves things in such an unresolved state. And I get that sometimes the artist wants you to be, hey, draw your own conclusion. Yeah. That wasn't what this film needed.
No, at all. Not at all. And and I felt like the filmmaker was like, okay, I know what I just did sucks, but before the click to black, I feel like the filmmaker was like, I know that what I just did sucks, but I'm going to put that seed of hope back in you. But it's like, it's too little too late. You've already shit all over us. So, I was enjoying the movie up until like the last 20 minutes, and then it was just like, oh.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're on the same page. Because I was so proud of myself for having chosen to see it, because it wouldn't have been my first choice on stuff I would just watch. You know, I'll always watch whatever to prepare for our show, but if I'm talking about just casual watching,
Right.
And then it happened, and I was like, oh God, I'm glad we're going to talk about it. So yeah, all right. Well, that's 3 movies that have released here recently. Keep up with us week to week to find out what other real quick reviews we will do for you, because I think movie production companies have made the decision to say, hey, we need to produce content for people to enjoy at home, because that's what we're doing. So that's going to give us a lot to talk about over the next several weeks, months, and 2021.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's do it. Let's watch movies.
Right. So with that in mind, thank you both for another fun episode. I'm excited about what 2021 is bringing for all of us. We'll have more Netflix roulettes. We'll have more movie assignments. And to echo Paul's encouragement, go back, check out some of our episodes that are about those. And what we'll do is we'll post and repost some past Netflix roulette episodes and other episode types that we have. But again, we thank you for joining us as always. So Happy New Year, team. It's been a fun episode. I'm looking forward to so much more.
Awesome.
Yeah, me
Yes,
too.
indeed.
This is going to be great.
Indeed. Especially since we all have new fancy digs and cameras and lights and all kinds of weird stuff. So
I'm still working on the lighting for mine. I'll figure it out.
I know, and we're building a desk for me
Oh, wow,
Nice.
in
cool.
the next couple of days, so it'll be hopefully better.
Yeah.
Just don't
well,
look at
I'm just
that.
happy you can now see my Rocky poster. So, or at least a portion of it. Thank you, new webcam. All right. Well, thank you all of you for joining us. We'll look forward to doing this again for you next week. Until then, watch movies, have fun, let us know what you're watching. But more important than that, remember, you're awesome, you're amazing, and the world's a better place because you are in it. We'll see you next time on Real to Real Talk.